In today's video, I'm going to help you identify what a valuable antique is. I'm going to go through what actually is an antique, the definition, what factors determine value, how you can assess the authenticity of antiques, and we'll just go through a quick broad run through of all the beginner things that you may need to know, and hopefully you can find it helpful and set you off on the right path for valuing antiques. So the first thing up, we've got to look at what actually is an antique, what qualifies as an antique. Well, in my 30 years experience working in an auction house and being an antiques dealer online, it's basically anything that's 100 years old. So anything 100 years or older can be classified as an antique. Now, this does vary slightly from category to category and different areas in the world, but in the UK, and I'm guessing in America as well, anything 100 years old can be an antique. Now, you also hear the term vintage. So what's vintage? Now, in my view, and how I've worked, vintage is anywhere between 20 and 50 years old, that type of thing. So it's not really an antique, but it's vintage, it's got some age. And obviously you've got collectibles as well, which can be more modern, which can be 10 years old. So there is some terms there and ages you need to play about with, but they're quite fluid. You don't have to, they're not strict, they're not rules. Who's gonna, there's no antiques police gonna come and get you. So that's what I'd work on, that type of age range. And another term you might hear is mid-century. Now, mid-century, all what that means is like the 1950s and 1960s. It's a certain style. You'll see like the furniture and the light fittings and the chairs, tables can be sometimes described as mid-century, and all that means it's the middle of the 20th century, which is 1950s, 1960s. So what determines the value of an antique? How do you identify the value? Well, in my view, there's four parts to this. You've got age, rarity, condition, and of course market demands or trends, the market. So if you look at the first one, age, now this is a real tricky one. Just because something is really, really old doesn't make it valuable. It needs some other criteria out of that list I've just given you to get some value. You could have something that's, say, I don't know, 600-700 years old, but without a market for it, it has no value because nobody wants to buy it. Or you could have something, as I say, like 100 years old, lots of market demand, it's rare, it's great condition, and it have a lot more saleability. So age is something to take into consideration. But rarity also, you could have something that's really rare from Victorian times and something's really rare from Roman times. So it's got 2 out of the 4. But the Roman time one, there might not be a market. But the Victorian one, there could be a market. So you've really got to look into each piece on its own merits. You've also got condition. Now, with condition, the rule of thumb with your condition, of course, you want it as pristine as you can get it. You want it almost as the day it's made in some cases. Other cases, people like to see patina on certain metals or bronze and furniture. But on the whole, if it's a ceramic or glass piece, you don't want no chips or restoration or cracks. But with that, again, as a caveat here, with that said, if it hits all the other criteria, if it's old, if it's rare, if there's a high market demand, then condition can be a bit poor because if it's really rare and as I say, it hits all the other markers and there's a high demand, that piece is still really valuable because lots of people want it. So the little chip or the hairline isn't going to put a collector off. So you've got to weigh up all four. They've all got, if you can get all four and they all come together as one, then boy, you've got some cool antique in front of you and it should be worth a lot of money. So you need to bear it in mind. Not everything's equal. Like a little, I can show you, if I just wrote my name or a squiggle down on a piece of paper, I could put it in a drawer and it could sit there for thousands of years. Now, in 1,000 years' time, take it out the drawer, you could look at it, it'd be in pristine condition, it'd be 1,000 years old, but there'd be no market for it, will there? So it's basically worthless. So that's what you've got to think about. Everything's got to align to make, I want to say, the perfect antique. How do you assess the authenticity and the age of an antique or an item? Now, it all depends what the item is. So this is a massive topic, as you can imagine. It's videos and videos in itself. But as a broad sweeping crossover, I'd say probably the easiest thing to identify would probably be a piece of Hallmark silver or a piece of pottery or porcelain. Now, the reason for that, each have marks on. if you get a piece of silver from the UK or lots of other countries, it'll have hallmarks on. Now, what them hallmarks will allow you to do is actually date the piece. You can get a book or go online and you find what the hallmarks are, where it was made, who made it, and the date. So that's quite a nice thing, because it's stamped on. It actually tells you on the piece how old it is. And the same with ceramics. That lots of ceramics will have a maker's mark on the bottom, either printed or impressed. And you can go and look this up and you can find out what dates that mark was used, so you can find out the age that way. Now, the authenticity, that's a little bit harder. That's more, it's experience. You've got to know what you're looking at, because obviously there is reproduction pieces out there, so you must be wary and careful of that. But that comes with handling pieces over time, doing your research and your due diligence and things like that. Now, if an item hasn't got a maker's mark or a hallmark on, say it's, I don't know, say it's a piece of furniture. Well, it hasn't got some furniture do have makers' names on, but if it hasn't, then what do you look for here? Well, you have to look at the style of the piece, the patina. And now what the patina means is the colour of it, the age, the wear and tear, and the overall style. And you look at that and you're like, yeah, that dates from that date range. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, like, if I take a chest of drawers, for example, you can have a Victorian chest of drawers from the 1880s, which will be quite big, more than likely made of mahogany veneer. As I said, big, on probably ball feet, and that lovely looking pieces of furniture. But if a chest of drawers was from the Georgian period, they'd be a lot smaller. Again, probably mahogany veneered, but they'd be a lot smaller in size. Most likely bow fronted. The front would be curved, and they'd have like splayed or bracket feet at the bottom. So yeah, as the more knowledge you gain, you kind of look and go, yeah, that's that date, because of the styles and what the items are made from, sorry, and actually how they're constructed. And obviously, if you haven't got that in your head, I mean, all you need to do is go online. You can have there's lots of online references. You can compare items on websites and on eBay. You can go through listings to see if there's anything similar. And obviously, like I've touched on, there's lots of books and apps. So it's kind of something you pick up, authenticity and age. You kind of get a feel to it. You can look at something and go, yeah, that's Victorian in style, so I know that's going to be 1850 to 1890, and you get it. Edwardian, 1900s, 1910, that type of thing. You kind of get to the styles, and that's just something that you have to pick up. You learn on the job, as it were, but you will pick it up. The more you handle and the more you see, you'll definitely get it. So what I'd suggest, if you are new and just starting out on your antique journey, I'd I'd take it nice and slow and start with some lower priced items just to get a feel, and you can start. You can build your confidence up. I mean, one of the worst things you could do is go and start off paying hundreds of pounds for stuff when you don't really know what you're doing, and there can be some pitfalls. To just start off on some nice little items, 10, 15 pounds, or even little job lots of things, and then start learning about what you've bought, do the research, go online as I've suggested, and look things up. And then you'll just slowly start to expand your knowledge. You can go on. Obviously, you can come on YouTube and watch videos like this, watch other creators and antique resellers and things like that, and just gain little bits of knowledge, and then go and take what they've said and go and take it into the field and look yourself. Go and view auctions, walk around antiques fairs. There's all different places you can go, and you don't have to buy anything. Just go and have a look, and slowly but surely, this sort of thing will sink in. I mean, for me, I was really lucky. I started my very first job at 14 was a Saturday job at an auction house, so I've been immersed in it since I was a kid, basically, and I've been there ever since. So it's kind of through osmosis gone into me. So you just pick up, you're like a sponge. You need to soak up all the knowledge and all the little bits and pieces, and it just stays in there. And when you see something similar again, you've got that expertise, you've got that knowledge, and you can put it into play. So over time, you will develop what they call an eye, and you in the trade, in the antique dealers, you'll hear people describe some people as, oh, they've got a good eye, and all what that means is that person's got a good feel for authenticity and the quality, and they know the value of an item, and they may not actually know what it is, but they just got the feel, they've just got the touch. They'll know, oh yeah, instinct tells them that this is worth checking out and worth doing some more research on. So enjoy the journey. You've got to enjoy it. It's about passion, history, discovery, and just learning as you go. If you want to see me appraise and run through some items, check this video here, as it's real cool videos. I look through some antique watercolour paintings.